strychnine into these ice cubes, which he then, after much deliberation and mathematical configurations, if I hold the thing like this and do this, and it's going to land over there. It did. The ice cubes melted. The rooster ate the ice cubes. End of the rooster. I want some applause for that one. Come on. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
As a rooster owner, I'd like to ask if we consider talking to the neighbors.
Are you kidding? Not without his Luger or his over and under.
Really looking out for ice cubes in my
Yeah,
yard.
you better watch that. And so that was humorous. My dad and I, from that point on, developed a really good relationship. We were so close and so tight, and I was so glad that he got rid of that rooster so he could tell me that story. And maybe if he hadn't killed the rooster, we would have never had this common bond, because I hate roosters now. Just hate them. But I eat a lot of chicken, so, it's okay. He called me down to Miami. This was in like 2002, 2003, and he was dying. He'd been in the hospital multiple times for pneumonia, which is a real killer. Once you get it and you're weakened and you don't exercise your lungs, it just gets worse, and you go back and you go back and you go back. 16 times before he died. He was in the emergency room for pneumonia. That's what eventually killed him. He summoned me down, and he goes, I don't have long, son. He had gangrene in his right leg, and he was refusing to get it amputated. He goes, I am not going to start whittling my body away. I'm just done. I've had a good life. I'm like thinking, okay, you've had a good life. My life's not been that great, but I can't blame you, because I'm an adult now, so whatever I do and have done for the last 25 or 30 years has been my own. I'm not here. Whoever's phone that is, I'm definitely not here. Somebody going to answer that? Carl, is that your phone?
It sounds like it's back that way.
Am I hallucinating? Does anybody else hear that? Is this a flashback? What's happening here? There it is. That was a phone ring. There was. Thank you. Thank you for that. Checks in the mail.
Checks in the mail.
He summoned me down and he goes, there's some very serious things, I don't have long to live, that I'm going to tell you and talk to you about. One was the assassination of President Kennedy. Now, I knew, obviously, from all the books and all the publicity, that he was accused of being one of the three tramps. And I certainly say that the old short tramp with the funny-looking hat, was he wearing a hat? I can't remember now. But he was, yeah. Sure looked like my dad. I mean, really, he's got very unusual features. And this guy, they did an overlay in this book called Coup d'Etat in America by Alan Weberman and Michael Canfield. You laid the clear plexiglass across the picture of my dad, and it had like an etching of the old tramp. And wow, that's my dad. And it's like, I couldn't deny that. But he'd always said, knew nothing about it. Oswald acted alone. And if you believe this fish story, I'll tell you another one about another rooster. He told me that he had advanced knowledge of the assassination of President Kennedy. And his body was weak, was given out, but his mind was extremely, extremely strong. The guy's mind was like a computer. You could ask him about anything, and he'd have dates, memories, and stuff. So this whole Reagan thing with the Alzheimer's, he wasn't going for that. And he told me he laid out some things for me over the next couple of days, and we made a deal. We had an idea. We needed to bring this to the public because it's important. He said he was a bench warmer in the assassination of President Kennedy. And a bench warmer, and he was very specific about that word, although we were never allowed the time to completely get the story from him. But a bench warmer is someone that's at the game, right? They're on the bench. They're not like in D.C. while the game's going on in Dallas. That's not a bench warmer. A bench warmer is at the football field as the game's going on. So he was there in Dallas. That's the way he told me he was there in Dallas. Now, there's one picture I've seen of a guy with a fedora and a trench coat. Some of you people may know what picture I'm talking about. He's in the middle of the street. He's probably the only guy wearing a trench coat. Doesn't look like a CIA agent at all. You know, you could have a neon sign on CIA. You know, it would be no more obvious. And he told me, you know, the little story, the information about being summoned to a safe house on 2 occasions and discussing the assassination with the team, and that there was another team at the ready in another location in the United States. That must have been the Chicago team, perhaps, or the Tampa team, or something like that. I don't know. He didn't. He only knew what he knew about it, and he did know about the assassination that was upcoming. He gave me names. He gave me a chain of command in his own hand, and then. Well, we didn't really know what to do with all that information at the time, so I went back to California. I had to go back to my job, and another year or so passed. But during that year, I got a tape from him in the mail, and it outlined that he knew that Lyndon Johnson was a co-conspirator in the assassination of President Kennedy, and that some of the other co-conspirators, he named them as well. David Morales was at the meeting. There was a guy named, who was the psycho with the alcoholic psycho with the... Thank you. All I have to do is say alcoholic and psycho, and people that know go, Bill Harvey. Anyways, yeah, he was a crazy kind of guy, but I guess working for the CIA and doing stuff like that, you might get a little crazy. Anyways, I'm running out of time, but he did outline these many things which I put in my first book, Bond of Secrecy. And my father was going to release this information and fulfill it to its furthest extent while he was alive. But he got under so much pressure from his attorney, who was being handled by William F. Buckley Jr., who has massive CIA connections, to keep my father from going public with this. They said that he was going to be arrested, he was going to be prosecuted even at his advanced age and his declining medical state. And plus, and it was true, it would have ruined his second family. And he knew he already ruined his first family with Watergate. And I respected that and I appreciated that. But he told me, after he passed away, to do, with this information, do what I thought was necessary to bring it to the public. I have to add that my father was not ashamed or felt guilty of any participation or advanced knowledge in the Kennedy assassination. He truly felt that JFK was a security threat to this country, as did just about everybody else in the military-industrial complex. It was the people that loved JFK. The other people in government hated him, and maybe he was a security risk. I really don't know what would have happened if he would have lived, and we would have had an early detente with Russia. Who knows? We would have revealed our alien secrets way back then and all this kind of stuff. But that never came about because they got rid of him. They whacked him. And that's the way the CIA does things. And that was when this country was taken over against its knowledge, against its will. And nothing's ever really been the same since then. And Eisenhower warned us very honestly, very openly. And I'm just, sorry that my father didn't live long enough and wasn't strong enough to bring this information out himself, as the plan was. And Kevin Costner, the movie actor, had a hand in that too. He was going to provide my dad with $3 million and all this kind of stuff. This was a whole package deal going on because he wanted to film it. Costner wanted to bring it out. This is all in the Bond of Secrecy book. And my other book is about my mom, Dorothy, how she started out in the OSS and was part of this Treasury Department OSS joint operation to track Nazi gold and currency, art objects stolen from all the countries that they had invaded. And she just led a fabulous life in those days. And it was mixed with a great deal of sadness also. She had a lot of miscarriages, probably because of the stress. And she, anyway, she was just a wonderful woman. She lost her life in the plane crash in Chicago, which I believe was murder. I don't know. I'll never know who gave the orders or whatever. I can't even, guess. So it's an ongoing attempt to find out what happened to her, because I really would like to know, who kind of winked and nodded and said, yeah, this plane can't land, because she was on a plane with CBS Anchorwoman, Michelle Clark, and they were going to do a press conference in Chicago the next day, where she was going to, quote, blow the White House out of the water, bring everybody down. She had just had it. I mean, she'd already had it already for months and months and years. This was the final straw. She felt she was the person that was going to save our family, and then they killed her. My dad pled guilty 3 days later, sentenced to 4.5 years, and my life came to an abrupt end for family and that kind of thing. And when I came out with my Bond of Secrecy book, the rest of my family totally, said, well, we begged you not to bring this out. You're no longer part of the Hunt family. And I'm like, well, I thought I was the Hunt family. But I wasn't. And so they've not spoken to me, nor will they ever contact me, despite my many, many attempts over the years to reopen dialogue with my sisters and my stepmother, who was a wonderful teacher from Georgia. They just won't have anything to do with me. And that's the price. So, yeah, my life's been a little confusing and a little difficult, but you have to do what's the right thing to do. And I would do it all over again. I would lose my family, I would lose my mother. If that's what it took to bring me here today to speak to you guys, I would do that all over again. And thanks very much for listening. Thank you. I just need 1 minute. I wrote a letter. I'm sorry. This is going to be something I wanted to read here. I put on Facebook a letter. Some of you know what letter I'm talking about? Yep. This is a letter to Caroline Kennedy. And I've just been, this has been eating away at me for a long time, and it's not fair to her. And someone needed to say something, and so I wrote this a week or so ago and put it on Facebook, and the support was just incredible. And it says, it is with the deepest respect and honesty that I reach out to you. I feel a great deal of sorrow for actions involving my father, which may have led to the death of your father. In 1963, my father, E. Howard Hunt, as a CIA officer, had knowledge of plans to eliminate your father, President John F. Kennedy. I know this because my father confesses to me shortly before he died. It is a burden I will always carry. I cannot imagine the loss you experienced at such a young age. In the ensuing years, you have carried yourself with great dignity and reserve in the face of ongoing public speculation about your father's death. No one has ever, to my knowledge, offered you any kind of apology for this horrible and unforgivable crime. It seems an insignificant gesture to apologize, but that's all I am able to do. So for what it's worth, I'm deeply regretful for my father's role, whatever it may have been, in the death of your father. I'm so sorry that history has been cruel to your family in ways most of us won't even understand. From the bottom of my heart, I offer this sincere apology and hope that you find it comforting that someone cares enough about you and what you lost to come forward and say, I'm sorry. And I am sorry. And thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it. Good John Hunt.
We'll bring up our next speaker, Douglas County, in 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I'm going to buy your 2 books.
Oh. Oh, don't forget to get those Rolling Stone things back to me.
Now, just
Okay.
clarification right at the end, you said that your father confessed to you. And the sentence before that was about your brother's murder. So let's get it straight. Your dad didn't confess to killing your mom.
No.
He confessed to being involved in the water.
He confessed to be involved in the Kennedy assassination. Right. And he did, the first time ever, he said, when they killed your mother, I lost all hope that I could protect your children.
Yeah.
And when he said that, the hair stood up on my body because he'd never discussed her death with me or any of the other members of the family. It was just an accident and the subject, chapter closed. But when he said, when they killed your mother and I could not protect you anymore, I felt that you children were now in grave danger.
That actually brought them, even though they were going to split, all this turmoil brought us together.
My mother and father? Only in the sense that my mother was so strong and such a passionate woman that even though she could not stand my father anymore, she stayed, and it cost her her life. That's the kind of woman she was. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What is different between you?
Thank you very much, Dave.
Doug, how are you doing, brother? Good to see you. It's been a long time. Yeah.
Got the whole thing.
Got the whole thing.
I had breakfast with his wife.
Thank you.
That's an amazing story.
What's the evacuation? Get everybody out, where they would go, what the safe houses were. That's what he did.